Shalom, welcome to Tactically Torah. I am Heath Hayes. Today is day 95 of Read the Bible in a Year, and we are in 2 Samuel, reading chapters 13 through 15 today. All right. On page 328 in the scriptures, if you're following along. Again, 2 Samuel chapter 13. Let's go. And after this it came to be that Absalom, son of David, had a beautiful sister whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, son of David, loved her. And Amnon was distressed, even to become sick, because of his sister Tamar, for she was a maiden. And it was hard in the eyes of Amnon to do whatever to her. And Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, son of Shema, David's brother. And Jonadab was a very wise man, and he said to him, "Why are you, the sovereign's son, becoming thinner day after day? Explain it to me." And Amnon said to her, "I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister." And Jonadab said to him, "Lie down on your bed and pretend to be sick. And when your father comes to see you, say to him, 'Please let my sister Tamar come and give me food, and make the food before my eyes so that I see it and eat it from her hand.'" So Amnon lay down and pretended to be sick, and when the sovereign came to see him, Amnon said to the sovereign, "Please let Tamar, my sister, come and make a couple of cakes for me before my eyes so that I may eat it from her hand." Then David sent Tamar to the house, saying, "Please go to the house of your brother Amnon and make food for him." So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house while he was lying down, and she took dough and kneaded it and made cakes before his eyes and baked the cakes. And she took the pan and turned them out before him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, "Make everyone go away from me." And they all went out from him. And Amnon said to Tamar, "Bring the food into the bedroom that I eat from your hand." And Tamar took the cakes which she had made and brought them to Amnon, her brother, in the bedroom. And she brought them to him to eat. And he took hold of her and said to her, "Come, lie with me, my sister." Mind you, they had different mothers, both fathered by David, different mothers. So there's that. And she answered him, "No, my brother, do not humble me, for it is not done so in Israel. Do not do this wickedness. And I, where could I take my shame? And you would be like one of the fools in Israel. And now please speak to the sovereign, for he would not withhold me from you." But he would not listen to her voice. And being stronger than she, he humbled her and lay with her. Amnon then hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love which he had loved her. And Amnon said to her, "Arise and go." And she said to him, "No, for this evil of sending me away is worse than the other you have done to me." But he would not listen to her. And he called his young man serving him and said, "Now put this one out away from me, bolt the door behind her." And she had on a long coat, for the sovereign's maiden daughters wore such garments. And his servant put her out and bolted the door behind her. And Tamar put ashes on her head and tore her long coat that was on her and put her hand on her own head and went away crying bitterly. And Absalom her brother said to her, "Has Amnon your brother been with you? But now keep silent, my sister. He is your brother, and do not take this matter to heart." So Tamar remained in the house of her brother Absalom, but was ruined. And sovereign David heard all these reports and was very wroth. And Absalom spoke to his brother Amnon neither good nor evil, for Absalom hated Amnon because he had humbled his sister Tamar. And it came to be, after 2 years, that Absalom had sheep shears in Baal Hatzor, which is beside Ephraim. And Absalom invited all the sons of the sovereign. And Absalom came to the sovereign and said, See, your servant has sheep shears. Please let your servant and his servant go with your servant. But the sovereign said to Absalom, No, my son, let us not go. Let us not all go now, lest we be too heavy on you. And he urged him, and he would not go. And he blessed him. And Absalom said, If not, please let my brother Amnon go with us. And the sovereign said to him, Why should he go with you? And Absalom urged him, so he let Amnon and all the sons of the sovereign go with him. And Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, Watch, when the heart of Amnon is glad with wine, and I shall say to you, Strike Amnon, then kill him. Do not be afraid. Have I not commanded you, be strong and brave? Then the servants of Absalom did go to Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the sons of the sovereign rose up, each one mounted his mule and fled. And it came to be, when they were on the way, that the news came to David, saying, Absalom has stricken all the sons of the sovereign, and not one of them is left. And the sovereign rose up and tore his garments and lay on the ground, and all his servants stood by with their garments torn. And Jonadab, son of Shema, that's 2 pages, David's brother, answered and said, Do not let my master say that they have killed all the young men, the sons of the sovereign, for only Amnon is dead. For by the mouth of Absalom this has been appointed from the day that he humbled his sister Tamar. And now let not my master the sovereign take this matter to heart, to think that all the sons of the sovereign are dead, for only Amnon is dead. And Absalom fled. And the young man who was watching lifted up his eyes and looked, and saw many people were coming from the way behind him and on the side of the hill. And Jonadab said to the sovereign, Look, the sons of the sovereign are coming, as your servant said, so it is. And it came to be, as soon as he had finished speaking, that, look, the sons of the sovereign came, and they lifted up their voice and wept, and the sovereign too, and all his servants wept bitterly. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, son of Ammihud, sovereign of Geshur. And David mourned for his son all the days. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur, and was there 3 years. Sovereign David then longed to go to Absalom, for he had been comforted concerning Amnon, because he was dead. Chapter 14. And Joab, son of Zeruiah, knew that the heart of the sovereign was towards Absalom. And Joab sent Tekoa, and brought from there a wise woman, and said to her, Please pretend to be a mourner, and put on mourning garments, and do not anoint yourself with oil, but act like a woman who has been mourning a long time for the dead. Then you shall go to the sovereign and speak to him according to this word. And Joab put the words in her mouth. And when the woman of Tekoa spoke to the sovereign, she fell on her face to the ground and did obeisance, and said, Save, O sovereign. And the sovereign said to her, What is your trouble? And she answered, Truly I am a widow, my husband is dead, and your female servant had 2 sons, and the 2 fought with each other in the field, and there was no one to part them. But the one struck the other and killed him. And see, the entire clan has risen up against your female servant, and said, Give him who struck his brother, so that we put him to death for the life of his brother whom he killed, and also destroy the heir also. Thus they would extinguish my burning coal that is left, and leave my husband neither name nor remnant on the earth. And the sovereign said to the woman, Go to your house and let me give commands concerning you. And the woman of Tekoa said to the sovereign, My master, O sovereign, let the crookedness be on me and on my father's house, and the sovereign and his throne be guiltless. And the sovereign said, Whoever speaks to you, bring him to me, and let him no longer touch you. And she said, Please let the sovereign remember Yahweh your Elohim and your Redeemer of blood, not destroy any more, lest they destroy my son. And he said, As Yahweh lives, not one hair of your son shall fall to the ground. And the woman said, Please let your female servant speak a word to my master, the sovereign. And he said, Speak. And the woman said, And why have you reasoned like this against the people of Elohim? For in speaking this word, the sovereign is as one who is guilty, and that the sovereign does not bring his outcast one home again. For we shall certainly die and become like water spilled on the ground, which is not gathered up again. Yet Elohim does not take away a life, but shall devise ways so that his outcast ones are not cast out from him. And now I have come to speak this word to my master the sovereign, because the people have made me afraid. And your female servant said, Please let me speak to the sovereign. And it could be that the sovereign does what his female servant asks. For the sovereign has listened to deliver his female servant from the hand of many of the men seeking to destroy me and my son together from the inheritance of Elohim. Then your female servant said, Please let the word of my master the sovereign be comforting, for my master the sovereign is the messenger of Elohim in discerning the good and the evil. And Yahweh your Elohim is with you. And the sovereign answered and said to the woman, Please do not hide from me the matter that I am asking you. And the woman said, Please let my master the sovereign speak. And the sovereign said, Is the hand of Joab with you in all this? And the woman answered and said, As your being lives, my master the sovereign, no one turns to the right or to the left from all that my master the sovereign has spoken. For your servant Joab commanded me, and he put all these words in the mouth of your female servant. Your servant Joab has done this to change the appearance of the matter, but my master is wise according to the wisdom of a messenger of Elohim to know all that is in the earth. And the sovereign said to Joab, See now, you shall do this matter, and go and bring back the young man Absalom. And Joab fell to the ground on his face and did obeisance, and blessed the sovereign. And Joab said, Today your servant knows that I have found favor in your eyes, O my master, O sovereign, in that the sovereign has done the word of his servant. And Joab rose up and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. And the sovereign said, Let him return to his own house, but do not let him see my face. And Absalom went to his own house and did not see the sovereign's face. And in all Israel there was no one who was praised as much as Absalom for his handsomeness. From the sole of his foot to the crown of his head there was no blemish on him. And when he cut the hair of his head, for it was at every year's end that he cut it, because it was heavy on him, when he cut it, he weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels by the sovereign's weight. And Absalom, that is some thick, heavy hair. Wow. And to Absalom were born 3 sons, and one daughter whose name was Tamar, and she was a woman of beautiful appearance. And Absalom dwelt in Jerusalem 2 years, and he had not seen the sovereign's face. Then Absalom sent for Joab to send him to the sovereign, but he would not come to him. And he sent the second time, but he would not come. And he said to his servant, See, Joab's field is near mine, and he has barley there. Go, set it on fire. And Absalom's servant set the field on fire. Then Joab rose up and came to the house of Absalom and said, Why have your servant set my field on fire? And Absalom said to Joab, Look, I sent to you, saying, Come here, so that I send to you to the sovereign to say, Why have I come from Geshur? It was good for me while I was there, and now let me see the sovereign's face, and if there is any crookedness in me, then you shall put me to death. Joab then went to the sovereign and informed him, and he called for Absalom. And he came to the sovereign and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the sovereign, and then the sovereign kissed Absalom. Chapter 15. And it came to be after this that Absalom prepared a chariot and horses for himself, and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the way of the gate. And it came to be, whenever anyone who had complained came to the sovereign for right ruling, that Absalom would call to him and say, What city are you from? And when he said, Your servant is from such and such tribe of Israel, Absalom would say to him, Look, your matters are good and right, but you have nobody from the sovereign to hear you. And Absalom would say, Oh, that I were made judge in the land, and everyone who has complaint or case would come to me, and I should let right be done to him. And it came to be, whenever anyone came near him to bow down to him, that he would put out his hand and take hold of him and kiss him. And Absalom did this to all Israel who came to the sovereign for right ruling. And Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. And it came to be, at the end of 40 years, that Absalom said to the sovereign, Please let me go to Hebron, and pay the vow which I have vowed to Yahweh. For your servant vowed a vow while I dwelt in Geshur, in Aram, saying, If Yahweh indeed brings me back to Jerusalem, then I shall serve Yahweh. And the sovereign said to him, Go in peace. And he arose up and went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, As soon as you hear the voice of the shofar, then you shall say, Absalom is sovereign in Hebron. And with Absalom went 200 men of Jerusalem who were invited, and they went along unsuspectingly, and did not know the matter at all. Absalom also sent for Ahithophel, the Gilonite, counselor of David, from the city of Gihon, while he slaughtered slaughterings. And it came to be that the conspiracy became potent for the people with Absalom, kept increasing. There we go. Then a messenger came to David, saying, The hearts of men of Israel are with Absalom. And David said to all his servants who were with him in Jerusalem, Rise up and let us flee, for none of us shall escape from Absalom. Go in haste, lest he overtake us quickly, and bring evil upon us, and strike the city with the edge of the sword. And the sovereign's servant said to the sovereign, Look, your servant shall do according to all my master the sovereign chooses. And the sovereign went out, and all his household at his feet. But the sovereign left 10 women concubines to look after the house. So the sovereign went out, and all the people at his feet, and they stood still at the last house. And all his servants were passing on at his side, and all the Kerethites, and all the Pelethites, and all the Gittites, 600 men who had followed him from Gath, were passing on before the sovereign. And the sovereign said to Ittai the Gittite, Why do you go, you also with us? Turn back and remain with the sovereign, for you are a foreigner, and also an exile from your own place. You came yesterday and Should I today make you wander up and down with us when I am going, wherever I am going? Return and take your brothers back. Loving commitment and truth be with you." And Ittai answered the sovereign and said, "As Yahweh lives, and as my master the sovereign lives, in whatever place my master the sovereign is, whether in death or life, let your servant also be there." For David said to Ittai, "Go." Therefore David said to Ittai, "Go and pass over." And Ittai the Gittite and all his men and all the little ones who were with him passed over, and all the land was weeping with the loud voice, and all the people were passing over, and the sovereign himself was passing over the Wadi Kidron, and all the people were passing over toward the way of the wilderness. And see, Zadok also came, and all the Levites with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of Elohim, and they sat down the ark of Elohim, and Abiathar went up until all the people completed passing over from the city. And the sovereign said to Zadok, "Take the ark of Elohim back to the city. If I find favor in the eyes of Yahweh, then he shall bring me back and show me both it and his dwelling. But if he says thus, I have not delighted in you, here I am. Let him do to me as seems good in his eyes." And the sovereign said to Zadok the priest, "Are you not a seer? Return to the city in peace, and your 2 sons with you, Ahimaaz your son, and Jehonathan your son, Jehonathan son of Abiathar. And see, I am waiting in the desert plains of the wilderness until word comes from you to inform me." And Zadok and Abiathar took the ark of Elohim back to Jerusalem, and they remained there. And David went up by the ascent of the Mount of Olives, and wept as he went up. And he had his head covered and went barefoot. And all the people who were with him covered their heads and went up, weeping as they went up. And David was informed, saying, "Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom." And David said, "O Yahweh, I pray you, make the counsel of Ahithophel foolish." And it came to be that David came to the summit, and where he bowed himself before Elohim, he saw Hushai the Archite coming to meet him with his robe torn and dust on his head. And David said to him, "If you pass on with me, then you shall become a burden to me. But if you return to the city and say to Absalom, I am your servant, O sovereign, once servant of your father, but now I am your servant, and then you shall nullify the counsel of Ahithophel for me. And are not Zadok and Abiathar the priests with you there? And it shall be that every matter you hear from the sovereign's house, you should report to Zadok and Abiathar the priests. See, there with them are their 2 sons, Ahimaaz, Zadok's son, and Jehonathan, Abiathar's son. And by them you shall send every matter you hear." And Hushai, David's friend, went into the city, and Absalom came to Jerusalem. All right. It's 13, 14, 15. Shalom.